Hi, let's talk about education and the future of it. This presentation is created by Patty Sarabia for EDUT 522 Emerging Technology. Let's go ahead and start our presentation by a quote from Mark Prensky. Today's students are no longer the people our educational system was designed to teach. So this quote that I just read from Mark Prensky brings up the question about education and what was education like before. So I'm going to briefly examine what education was before we started having changes to it with technology and all the different changes that have occurred within education. So education before was 1, individual learning, 2, teacher-centered, 3, textbooks, 4, paper-based. So individual learning, the students were in single file rows. The learning was done just individually by the student themselves. 2, it was teacher-centered. The teacher was the holder of knowledge. They decided when the knowledge was given, what the knowledge was. And textbooks. Textbooks have been a big part of education. And 4, it was paper-based, so a lot of pen and paper, very traditional. Now that we have examined what education was like before, let's go ahead and examine what education is like today. So education now, it's 1, collaborative, 2, inquiry-based, 3, student-centered, 4, technology is included, and 5, one-to-one devices. So education is now very much collaborative. It used to be individual. Now it's collaborative. We work in groups. It's all about group setting and working with others and creating our networking. It is inquiry-based. Now we have education based on research. It is student-centered, so it focuses on the educational needs of the student, not on the teacher being the holder of the information. Big movement in our education system has been technology. Technology has revolutionized what education is, including point number 5, which is one-to-one devices. So now many schools are adopting a one-to-one devices, whether it be iPads, Chromebooks, some type of technology that's one-to-one, where students can use that and usually get to take it home, as is the situation at the campus I work at. So I talked about student-centered and teacher-centered. I want to focus on what is the difference. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at it. Into it. First, I'm going to start off with teacher-centered learning. So what exactly is teacher-centered learning? It's limited peer interaction, passive participation, teacher is the keeper of knowledge, teacher decides what the students learn, which I understand with curriculums and pacing guides, the teacher still determines what they learn, but it's changed when we focus it on student-centered. It's limited use of critical thinking and inquiry skills. Students lose the ability to be creative and innovative. And the major goal with teacher-centered learning is that we get the right answer. So we examined teacher-centered learning. Now let's look into what student-centered learning is all about. There's active participation. It's collaborative. The teacher facilitates the learning, so they act as a facilitator. It allows the students to be creative and innovative. Students direct their learning. Students have a voice, which is communication. They use 21st century skills, which again ties in with communication. And the goal of student-centered learning is to allow students to find the answers, allow students to think critically, and inquire about the content. Now, one of the big things that I keep mentioning is these 21st century learning skills, and that's been one of the biggest shifts in education. So what are those 21st century skills? I've divided them up, and the first category is learning, and these 21st century skills in learning look like this: critical thinking. So students are thinking critically. They're being allowed to be creative. communication, collaborating. So it's the four C's represented in these 21st century learning skills. The next set of 21st century skills is literacy. 21st century skills have developed, and now the literacy is more focused on the technology aspect of it. So it's the information, the media, the technology. So how well can these students look up the information? How well can the students use media to develop their content or the curriculum? And how can they use this technology? And the last category of 21st century skills is life skills. So it's important that students learn these along with literacy and with learning. So with these 21st century skills, they learn flexibility, they learn leadership, productivity, and to socialize, which is also part of these C in our 21st century learning skills. So far, I have talked about what education is and what it was, what it is. Now I'm going to focus on what education will be like in 10 years. So my prediction is that in 10 years, we will bring virtual reality into the classroom. Right now, it's something that's very expensive and out of reach for many schools, but I know that Google is actively researching and developing products that make it affordable and easy for teachers and districts to use. Also, augmented reality is something that is slowly coming into the classroom, but I definitely see it being a big part of the classroom in 10 years. We have many different apps that we can use, whether it's on the iPad or the Chromebook, that allows us to reach our goal of augmented reality. But I think it's going to be more widespread in 10 years. Now, AI tools. I think this is really important within education. So artificial intelligence is slowly coming into the classroom. One of the examples that I know some teachers are using is via Alexa. So a lot of teachers are using the Alexa within their classroom to either ask questions, to play music, just that quick knowledge. And I think AI tools are really important because it's going to revolutionize education, where the students are learning, who's teaching them, and how are they acquiring their basic skills. They can also have tutors, so Alexa can help them solve a problem. And the other two things that are also continuing, and I think that it's going to continue developing within the next 10 years, flexible seating. Before in our education, and still now, we are in traditional rows. My classroom is like that, but we are slowly shifting into flexible seating. So our school is actually purchasing desks that can be individual, they can be in pods, they can be in quads. It can move around depending in trios, depending on what is needed for the classroom setting or the content. And online education, I believe that online education is going to continue growing and making education accessible to all students. One of the biggest challenges our school faces, being the second largest high school in California, is that we don't have the capacity to get these students into all these classes, and sometimes that causes an issue with their schedule, so they're not always able to meet their A through G requirements, which leads to night school or credit recovery in some cases. So what we're actually doing is we're opening up sections of health online, and we're going to continue developing other online classes to reach all the students. I want to go ahead and end today by saying a quote from Dr. Tony Wagner. Today, because knowledge is available on every internet connected device, what you know matters far less than what you can do with what you know. The capacity to innovate, the ability to solve problems creatively, or bring new possibilities to life, and skills like critical thinking, communication, and collaboration are far more important than academic knowledge. So I think this is a good quote to tell us where we're going academically with technology. Thank you for watching. Here are my references. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.